Alright guys, this process is definitely a lot more complicated than I originally expected, but we're figuring it out. So there's like a plastic bracket with tabs on both sides at the bottom here. It has to come out first before you can pull all of this wiring out of the column. Got that exposed a little better. Maybe we can just kind of finesse it. So they're a little lock tab, and you gotta just depress them in, and this little plastic panel is gonna slide out of the column. Now you might have to give it a little love, but just like that. And this little plastic piece I'm talking about, you can see on this side, kind of, this little tab needs to be depressed in to free it up so you can get it out of the column. And that is the part that was stopping me from pulling all of these out. Now remember, if you take the clock spring out, you want to make sure that you don't twist it like crazy. So for right now, I'm just going to set that off to the side while I get all these other electrical connectors undone from down here. There's one. Damn you, 30-year-old plastic. There's the other. So now with that out, so there is a 10mm nut on part of the column, and that holds the ground wire. Okay, it might be a 3/8. We're gonna grab a 3/8 wrench. So used to working on cars that are all metric. This is definitely different than 3/8 here. Just a 3/8. We're gonna see if we can pull the column down far enough to actually get to that bolt, or that nut, rather. Okay, got it. So that's now broken free, and I'm just spinning it off. So there goes the ground wire. Now with that, the rest of our electrical wiring for turn signal assembly can get fished up through the column. A couple other connectors I gotta undo. So if you probably couldn't tell by now, this is my first time taking this column apart. There's gonna be a lot of firsts on this channel, but I like it that way. GM's plastic clips from the 90s. They gotta be some of the worst designed clips I've ever seen. I love you, GM, but this is honestly kind of outrageous. The amount of effort it requires just to separate one clip. There we go. So I don't know if you can see it real well, guys, but that is actually the issue. I'm up to a point right now where there's a pin in this side and in this side, and the Corvette guy at my shop, he actually has the perfect tool, like the factory tool to get those pins out. So I'm gonna ask him tomorrow to borrow them so I can get those pins out. I should be able to then pull this whole assembly off and get to the 4 bolts that hold the tilt mechanism to the column. I think there is one more step might be missing. I know you told me earlier. I think I have to disconnect the actual shaft here from bottom of the column outside the vehicle, and then this whole shaft assembly should just pop all the way up when you release those 2 pins, this spring, and tilt it forward to disengage the tilt mechanism. I think that's how he explained it to me. I'm gonna verify with him tomorrow. Yeah, I'm actually a lot closer, and I didn't have to disassemble as much as I thought. I mean, I still had to take a lot apart here, and it's going to be very interesting getting it all back together. These wires are really a pain in the ass. I mean, to snake them through the column was just terrible. Like, I have no idea why they designed them that way. It was honestly just a very piss poor design, but they did it. I think I'm going to spend the rest of the time here at the garage tonight just kind of organizing. I got parts and things just laying on my bench, and it's been bugging me every time I've came up here. So we're actually going to just go over them and see if we can put that into this week's video, because this is clearly not getting done this week, and that's fine. It is what it is. The car is now in the garage, so I don't really have a time frame. I would like to be able to drive it again, and as it stands, all ripped apart, I can't really drive it right now. I do have a surprise coming, and it's not for this car. I actually have a couple things that I'm gonna be doing that aren't on this beautiful 93 Corvette. They're on my daily, so that's going to be coming in the near future. The order is shipped. It should be coming later this week. We're going to do a little modifying to the daily in due time. Alright, so like I said, the other part of this video is I'm going to be putting away a couple parts and tools and whatnot, and just miscellaneous stuff that I have now strewn across my bench. We're going to do that. I guess I'll show you guys a couple of the things. So I was actually working on another LT1 at work, and they put MSD plugs and wires, or not plugs, I'm sorry, MSD wires and the MSD 6A box on their car. I have some parts left over from those boxes that, you know, they were willing to let me have. And really it's just stock plug wires, and I think they're like spark plugs in the one box. And then it's some wiring, various electrical connectors like crimp fittings, things like that for the MSD box, which I do plan on getting an MSD 6AL to run the ignition system on this Corvette, especially when I start spraying. I'm also going to be running a 2-step limiter. Definitely getting the 6AL box so I can set the actual rev limit, because when I start spraying nitrous, say it wants to over rev, I want the ignition system just cut out right at 6,000 RPMs. I will be putting stronger springs in, so it should be able to go a little bit higher and not, you know, float the valves, but still, in case it starts to over rev, I just want it to kind of nip itself in the bud. Other than that, OptiSpark distributor, that was not mine. Again, this came from work off that other LT engine that I did, and the guy didn't want it. It has a burn spot where the spark had been jumping right through the housing. The cap is still good, and it appears as though the sensor inside of it, the optical sensor, is still good. So if those ever fail on my OptiSpark, I now have a backup. Thank you, dude, with the LT1 Camaro. By the way, if you got an LT1 Camaro, definitely send pics, because those cars are freaking awesome. I do enjoy them quite a bit. I just don't have one. Corvette gang. Actually have a torque wrench from Germany. My brother actually, he lives in Germany, and he had that torque wrench laying around his house. So the last time my mom went over there, she brought it back for me. I just think it's something cool. Not sure if I'll ever use it. I have a couple snap-on torque wrenches, and they are super accurate, so they'll probably be my go-to for any torquing needs, but it's still just really cool to have those. I find it cool. I think it's interesting. Spare parts bucket with my 1/4-inch ratchet. That's where it went. Oh, that's right. It is gone inside, people. Yeah, it shouldn't. It's locked. Like, it shouldn't. I grenaded that. I will say though, up until I grenaded it, that was a very handy ratchet. These are more sockets. And look at that, guys. So much nicer.